This video and the research it is based on are not the product of artificial intelligence or any other automated research and writing tools. The material is new, and not all statements in this video have the same potential to withstand the test of additional research, time and reason. Use at your own discretion. And you know what? All rights reserved. The narrative is heavily dependent on the supplied visual material. Please, do not hesitate to pause the video to get a better look. From past experience it is known that some viewers are irritated by the narrated voice. Please, keep in mind that you can mute the sound and simply read from the slides. The slides will continue to change after narration is finished in the background. I do not have a quality of voice and performing ability to do my own voiceovers. The budgetary considerations are also a factor in the choice of robotic voiceover versus a live one. Questions and comments are welcome. If you would like to receive the text of this presentation to make a translation into a language other than English easier, please, do not hesitate to ask. In my wandering over the internet, the painting as shown caught my attention on several occasions. It is well known, but it also invariably comes across as whimsical. The Death of Leonardo da Vinci, or Francis I Receives the Last Breaths of Leonardo da Vinci, is an 1818 oil painting by the French artist Jean-Auguste-Dominique Ingres, which shows the Italian artist and inventor Leonardo da Vinci on his deathbed on May 2, 1519, with Francis I of France holding his head. It was commissioned by Pierre-Louis Jean Casimir de Blocas, the French ambassador in Rome, and is now currently housed in the Petit Palais in Paris. This strange painting is even more puzzling because Ingres most obviously included his own likeness in it. This kind of personal involvement decisively eliminates the whims of a customer as the reason for glaring inconsistencies of this painting. The biggest inconsistency of this painting is about two people in the center of the premise, Leonardo da Vinci and King Francis I of France. While it is known that Leonardo used the hospitality of the king in his twilight years, and it is also known that King Francis enjoyed the company of an aging polymath, the full-blown friendship between those two prominent men was very unlikely. They belonged to different generations, they had different native languages, different circles of acquaintances and very different rhythm of life. While Leonardo took things slowly even when he was young, King Francis I was an energetic multitasking ruler actively involved in politics, wars, construction of palaces, culture, personal affairs, and the like. Even being in the same location at the time when Leonardo da Vinci passed away would be a big coincidence for King Francis, and finding time to actually walk to the quarters of the old artist would be yet another big if. Leonardo lived the last years of his life as a courtier, he was well cared for, and personal involvement of King Francis on any level would be very unlikely. Just like any other courtier, Leonardo would see King Francis in the king's parlor on suitable occasions, or when summoned. It was not a custom for the king to visit the living quarters of his courtiers for any reason. Second inconsistency of this painting is an outfit worn by the King Francis I. It is totally ridiculous to think that Francis would walk around his palace dressed in full uniform and with a ceremonial sword on his side. There is no doubt that the king dressed fashionably and expensively on a day-to-day basis, but as any man or woman he would have basic practicality in mind. The dress that Ingres showed him to wear was more suitable for reception of foreign ambassadors, making an official portrait or some other similar important occasion. Official dress of the king for a long time was a showcase of the wealth, power and craftsmanship of the country he represented. Third inconsistency related to the people that Ingres included in the painting. Circumstances of the death of Leonardo da Vinci are well known, and he died surrounded by his students who lived with him at the time of death. The painting, in fact, does not show anyone even remotely resembling one of his students. All in all, it is a whimsical painting on its face, and it is very strange for Ingres to produce one. Even with all his love of historical subjects. So it happened, a few months ago I worked on decoding or understanding of the painting, Straw Mannequin, by Francisco Goya. The painting is a part of a series of tapestry cartoons made for Charles IV, King of Spain, after Goya's appointment as court painter. The tapestries were to decorate one of the apartments in the Escorial, and the subjects, chosen by the king, were to be rural and jocose. Here is the typical modern interpretation of this painting. The straw mannequin is commonly known as El Pelele, which is its original Spanish name. It was painted between 1791 and 1792, and it depicts 4 young women tossing a doll using a blanket. You should note that the doll being tossed has a male appearance, and the women are smiling as they toss it. At the time I recognized that we are looking at large-size political cartoons or caricatures. Not dwelling on over 2 centuries of misconceptions, I was able to come up with a compelling argument about the content and purpose of The Straw Mannequin. It is amazing how 230 years after the fact art historians still sheepishly ignore political context of this painting. After the French Revolution, a secret political alliance was formed between Britain, Spain, Prussia, and Austria. They are represented by female figures with nationally accented clothing. Those powers were supposed to annihilate and humiliate a revolutionary France like a straw doll on a village fair, and Spain was very proud of being a part of this alliance. That is why that painting was commissioned by the king and displayed in the royal palace. Irony is, history has proven the inspiration behind this painting to be very misguided. Revolutionary France came victorious over 3 out of 4 powers that confronted it, and aforementioned powers were radically transformed in the process. Neither Goya nor owners of the painting were especially eager to admit the humiliating development. Contemporarily, painting was also a giveaway of a secret coordination between the enemies of revolutionary France that was both suspected and politically evident. Knowing that rules of understanding of political cartoons are different from rules applicable to ordinary paintings, understanding of the painting Francis I receives the last breaths of Leonardo da Vinci by Ingres became a very manageable task. People on such paintings can represent much larger entities, like countries or organizations. By the rules of the paintings that are political cartoons, the figure of the King Francis represents the whole of France, or, at very least, the government of France. It is an important distinction that will be elaborated a little later. That is why King Francis is shown dressed in his official attire. He is not in this painting just for himself. King Francis is shown embracing the lifeless body of Leonardo da Vinci. It is an important detail, as most descriptions mention the king supporting Leonardo. Leonardo is obviously dead, and the whole scene can be interpreted as the government of France embracing the body of Leonardo da Vinci. That interpretation is falling short of what historically happened. Yes, the government of France paid final respects to Leonardo da Vinci, who is buried in France. But the main interaction of this painting is not about that basic decency. The painting under consideration shows the government of France is embracing the body of works of Leonardo da Vinci. The body of works of Leonardo da Vinci is a somewhat mysterious animal for most historians and casual observers alike. Curiously, what is commonly known as a body of works of Leonardo da Vinci, while interesting, is not what the government of France showed embracing. It is known for a long time that most of the writings of Leonardo da Vinci are missing. What has become known relatively recently is that his paintings convey messages that are not described in any of his existing writings. The story told by Last Supper and other paintings is that Leonardo da Vinci did serious work researching the origins of Christianity. The work was started by other painters of the older generation and systematized and finalized by Leonardo da Vinci. Findings of the Verrocchio/Da Vinci research project inevitably led to the conclusions that Christianity is a pack of lies based on criminality, psychological problems, and lowliest human instincts. Conclusions of Leonardo liberated the government of France from any dependency on church and Christian writings. Sheltering Leonardo in his final years was a small price to pay for the removal of that artificial, irrational constraint. While probably not leading to atheism outright, embracing ideas of Leonardo da Vinci meant leaving messy embarrassment of religion behind and embracing reason, regardless of possibility of the existence of God. It is now time to introduce supporting characters in this painting. One of them is notorious Pope Alexander VI Borgia, 1431 to 1503, elected in 1492. Pope Alexander VI Borgia, commonly considered one of the worst popes because of his personal shortcomings. He indulged in luxuries, was involved with mistresses and fathered several children while in office. On the bright side, he was a capable administrator and patron of the arts. The rule of Pope Alexander highlighted the hypocrisy and shortcomings of the Catholic Church and steered discontent that was a precursor to the appearance of Protestantism that came about in less than 2 decades after his reign. He is shown with his famous daughter Lucrezia Borgia, 1480–1519. If anything, she inherited a notable interest in romantic adventures from her father. She was officially married 3 times and gave birth to at least 10 children. In the painting she is shown as a teenager dressed as Italian nobility. Her father's hand is on her shoulder. In this particular painting Pope Alexander VI Borgia stands for all of Catholicism. It is not difficult to recognize another personage in this painting. Right by the Pope Alexander VI Borgia is none other than Martin Luther, 1483–1546. Luther was ordained as a Catholic priest in 1507, and there is no doubt that excesses of the Borgia papacy influenced his rejection of Catholicism. While offering something different, newly invented Protestantism was based on the same rotten core as other flavors of Christianity that came before. As an approach to life, it was a distinction without a difference. The wars, the bloodshed that followed is especially disheartening because in, or about 1506 a pivotal event in human history changed everything. While everything stayed the same. Felice della Rovere confronted her father, Pope Julius II, and the Church. It was suspected for some time that the end of Christianity as a religion came when Felice della Rovere, a woman devoted to intellectual resistance, shared newly systematized knowledge with her father, Pope Julius II. This theory was bound to remain a speculation if not for the surprising report of the contemporary. An enigmatic painting by Andrea Mantegna is a snapshot of historical exchange. Her bravery was for ages as she did not know if she would come out alive. Christianity became a conspiracy, and humanity entered the age of Felice. It is not a stretch to assume that her own research was based on conclusions made by Leonardo da Vinci and unlimited access to papal archives. Her deeds and memory are only now making a comeback, but painters and sculptors made her into one of the most depicted humans among those whose likeness is known. For 5 centuries, when artists agreed with her conclusions and wished to express admiration of her deeds, they painted or sculpted her likeness, without disclosing who it is they painted. From Venice of Urbino, in 16th century, to Winged Scholar, in 21st century, painters immortalized Felice, Raphael's girlfriend and baby mama. She created a precedent of confronting Christianity and living to talk about it. She inspired many artists in person and scores more as a memory. She is suspected to be a Leda by Leonardo da Vinci, and it is a distinct possibility that she influenced his decision to approach King Francis I with his findings. While the talents of Leonardo were well known and admiration of King Francis I is easy to understand, the generosity of the king is much harder to explain. Whole choreography of the move to France is poorly understood and was hard to explain until now. Some historians think that Leonardo was in a bad shape financially, but that would not explain why the king decided to splurge. In the norms or the royal court, it was customary to invite a celebrity artist, award him profitable commissions and see where it goes. But Leonardo was old, suffered a stroke and could no longer paint. What Leonardo did have is his research about Christianity that would help France to embark on the new era, without need to deal with church meddling and Christian nonsense. Yet there is another possible motive for Leonardo's move to France that was never discussed until now. On the painting of a winged scholar there is a paw of the beast still gripping the globe even in 21st century. Felice defeated that beast 5 centuries ago, but the grip of the beast is still there. One can only imagine the power of that grip in 16th century. The very possible motive that brought Leonardo to France was fear for his life. Felice della Rovere was also a great destroyer. She is looking great for any 130-year-old. She confronted the church and blew the cover of the intellectual resistance. What she did needed to be done, but it cost many lives of artists who worked for the resistance. Raphael and Caravaggio died in 1610, right before this painting was made, most likely among them. Similar posture of the female figure to Raphael's sketch is a leading hint to this identification. The seashells by her feet are probably standing for the destroyed scrolls. She is standing on one. Among the artists close to Leonardo, Salai would pay the ultimate price. They made it look like a duel on crossbows. Caravaggio was tough and a duel would not work on him. Arsenic did, just like on Raphael. As for the painting in question, its basic meaning is pretty clear. As pointed out by painter Jean-Auguste-Dominique Ingres himself, France rejected both Catholicism and Reformation and embraced reason based on the conclusions of Leonardo da Vinci. The date this painting was made is 1818, which is coincidentally about 300 years since the death of a famous polymath who passed away in 1519. The year 1519 was probably a year when King Francis I transferred da Vinci papers into the custody of French security services. It would be risky to do it before Leonardo's passing. That way, dating of the painting is aligned with the date when knowledge became custody of France 3 centuries prior. The year 1818 is also right before the 300th anniversary of Leonardo's death. That makes this painting in memoriam painting for Leonardo. As such, the painting contains clues related to his death. The red canopy of the bed is very prominent, and by the rules of in memoriam paintings might be a pointer to murder or execution, not the death from natural causes. I, however, did not find sufficient reasons to consider the death of Leonardo a foul play. There are two people in the painting that were important in the life of Leonardo. One of them is Felice. Who else? She is shown in somber contemplation remembering an old friend. Another one is Michelangelo, artistic rival who now left to continue his fight and his art without looking back at Leonardo. From what we know, Michelangelo shared ideas of Leonardo about Christianity, even so his art shows much more straightforward, more cynical approaches and interpretations. Raphael and Felice compared Michelangelo to Diogenes in their epic Tell-All, School of Athens. There are few important clues in the painting that I did not touch yet or that need to be re-evaluated. The red canopy over the bed is not an allusion to murder. It is the same color and tone as the attire of the Pope Alexander VI Borgia. It is a symbol or sign that historical transfer of knowledge happened under the all-encompassing cover of European Christendom. The chair that is by the bed is much too opulent for the modest quarters of a visiting artisan. It is a real royal throne, the seat of the king. The very authority of the king was based on Christian concepts. The chair is upholstered in the same tone of red as the bed and the dress of the Pope. The two persons, a richly dressed girl and a priest, seeing each other eye to eye, represent two pillars of French monarchy, Christian nobility and clergy. Painter underscored their significance as someone living after the French Revolution and knowing that those estates, demographics, would be behind the French monarchy to the very end. All those clues purported to explain why findings of Leonardo da Vinci would become a state secret and would remain a state secret for centuries, instead of becoming a public knowledge. The French government was able to use the knowledge but would not dare to undermine its own standing and authority. Interestingly, figures of Felice, standing for deism or atheism, and Martin Luther, standing for Reformation, depicted outside of the all-encompassing colored red Catholic realm. The red headdress of Felice could possibly signify that mindful of the power of the Church she became silent as she is shown. It did not help, she still lost Raphael in 1520. By the way, it's been over 500 years. Whoever makes decisions in the French government, it is time to release Da Vinci files. We now know what is in them, but it would be fun to compare details.